coming up, and it's really getting close, but still looking good out there for right now. Temperatures are hanging steady in the middle 60s, not expected to warm up too much as we go through the rest of your day. So you can see the center of Ian now pushing offshore, off the eastern shore of off the eastern coast of Florida, and that will continue to move through the open waters and then eventually make its way on into the area, and that will bring us some very heavy rain. But right now we are staying dry, hanging on to cloudy conditions. So getting on to those warnings here in just a second, but let's talk about that track right now. So still a tropical storm, sustained winds right around 70 miles an hour. Now it was downgraded to a tropical storm right around 5 a.m. Did have 65-mile-per-hour winds. So starting to see that little bit of strength a little bit. And that's why the National Hurricane Center is forecasting it to become a Category 1 hurricane once again. But let me tell you, before you start freaking out, there's really no difference between a strong tropical storm and a very weak Category 1 hurricane. We're still going to feel the impacts here, and they're going to be the same impacts here in the low country. And then it will move onshore somewhere in the low country as we go into early tomorrow, and then it will continue to weaken as it moves inland. So getting onto those watches and warnings, we currently have hurricane warnings in effect for the South Carolina coast. Again, no real difference. Those impacts won't be changing, so don't start freaking out right now. But we also have some tropical storm watches and warnings in effect, along with those flood watches, and through this evening, wouldn't be surprised if they get extended. And we also have a storm surge warnings along the coast as well. So we've got lots of watches and warnings, but again, not looking at anything like down in Florida, what they got down there. But we are going to be looking at some very heavy rain. I'll break down those details here in just a little bit. But right now, looking at those winds really starting to pick up, coming out of the northeast, right around 10 to 15 miles an hour. Starting to see some winds along the coast between 20 and 25 miles an hour. Temperatures all across the board holding steady in the middle 60s. For the rest of the day, we are going to start to see those rain chances increase, especially by late afternoon into the evening, and those temperatures not expected to warm up. Again, I'll break down more of the details of what we can expect. That's coming up here in just a little bit.
All right, thank you, Charleston. And people are definitely taking those necessary steps to prepare. This line, well, it tells part of the story. Our Scott Eisberg saw this at the Costco in West Ashley this morning. You can see folks lining up to get propane. Again, they're trying to prepare as much as they can. And in other ways to prepare, you can actually still pick up sandbags if you need them. The city of Charleston has several sites available. We were at one of those spots Wednesday, folks showing up to get some sand that'll hopefully keep flooding at bay. We talked with one man who says he's doing what he can now before bad weather arrives.
Just making sure we got everything in case the water does get to a certain level.
It helped in the past, it helped this time. It keeps a lot of water out.
Did you see a lot of flooding?
Yeah, more than I wanted to, yeah.
Sandbag, there's options. In Georgetown, you can head over to 120 North Fraser Street. Sand is available until 5 this afternoon. In Charleston, you can get sandbags until 3 this afternoon at 4 different locations. They're right there on your screen. Bees Landing Rec Center in West Ashley, the Hampton Park parking lot, and Grace Bridge Street parking lot, both on the peninsula. 7 Farms Drive behind Governor's Park Dog Park on Daniel Island, and James Island Town Hall. Up in North Charleston, there's a couple options as well. This is on a first come first serve basis. You can head to the North Charleston Athletic Center on Casper Paget Way, or head to the North Charleston Aquatics Center on Patriot Boulevard. And we will certainly be keeping a close eye on low country beaches as well. Our Storm Tracker team has been saying storm surge could lead to beach erosion on parts of the coast. Here's a live look from Folly Beach right now. You can see those waves starting to build in intensity just slightly. Storm Tracker meteorologist Chris Nessman has an update on conditions from the Isle of Palms.
Hey everybody, meteorologist Chris Nessman here. I'm on Isle of Palms, just past high tide, right by the pier here at IOP, and you can just see how high the water is. Already we've got beach erosion going on, big waves, rough surf. The sand is really blowing too, and this is all well ahead of Ian. That's actually one of the big concerns that we have with Ian, is going to be that storm surge coming out ahead of it. While we're not expecting any major events like what they saw in South Florida, it is still certainly going to cause some problems for low during high tide. So part of what we are going to be watching for this is the timing of when the storm comes, where the center of it is, and what it's looking like during those high tide times, which of course the weather team will keep you updated, but still very impressive. The fact that Ian is still technically several hundred miles away, and we've got quite a bit going on just here at Isle of Palms.
All right, stay with us. We will continue our special live coverage as we continue to track Ian. Don't forget, with Ian and any breaking news, we are sharing pictures and video on all of our social media pages and our website. Be sure to follow us for the latest developments throughout the day. And as a reminder, we are standing by for that press conference with City of Charleston officials. We'll be back after the break. All right, we are back now. The City of Charleston officials are starting that press conference on preparations for Ian. Let's listen in now.
Reciting of Psalm 46, a verse from there, that God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in time of trouble. And we ask for everyone's prayers, for those who have been tragically and terribly impacted by this hurricane in the state of Florida. You've seen the images that have been coming forward today, and it's really been a tragic storm so far. So you might say we're blessed that by the time it gets here, it's weakened. Some folks say it will remain a tropical storm. It'll be out over the waters of the Atlantic for a little while, so it may strengthen to a Category 1 hurricane again. But I would say that given the alignment of its direction into Charleston and to Low Country, you're not going to know the difference. It's going to feel like a hurricane around here tomorrow. And we are taking this storm seriously, and we need our citizens to be prepared. And tomorrow, when this storm is upon us, stay home, stay out of harm's way, and that's going to be good for everyone. The convergence tomorrow of intense rain, along with a high tide expected around this time tomorrow, and storm surge that is currently predicted between 3 and 5 feet. The convergence of all that happening at the same time is very reminiscent of what we saw a few years ago with Hurricanes Matthew and Irma. And it's likely that water will come over the low battery wall, where we have not completed yet the elevation of it. Low-lying areas in the city, including the hospital district, could see inundation tomorrow. So the City of Charleston is expecting to see a lot of water tomorrow, and that's again why we're asking folks to take this seriously and stay put. Hunker down, as I say. We're getting ready in all kinds of ways. We're making sandbags available for our citizens at various locations. We're making our parking garages available late today, and the County of Charleston is doing so as well. So if you think your car needs to be protected, you can move your vehicle into a parking garage. And this may be kind of a mundane matter, but I got to ask our citizens' cooperation on this. We're doing everything we can to pick up all the trash by the end of the day today, The landfills do close at 2 o'clock today, so we got some limitations there. We hope to get everybody, but at the end of the day, today, when you go home, if your trash can and or recycling can has not been picked up, please bring it on in and secure it, because it's just going to create more mess for us all to have to pick up. So again, very mundane, but at the end of the day today, if your trash can and recycling can have not been picked up, please bring them inside. Our customer service line is open 24 hours a day for the next little while. That number, I hope everybody knows, is 724-7311. That's for non-emergencies. If you need the City of Charleston about anything other than emergency, call 724-7311. Of course, if you have an emergency, dial good old 911. So next I'd like to introduce Ben Almquist. He's our new City of Charleston Emergency Management Director. He just came on recently, but he's a seasoned professional, and we're so glad to have him as part of this incredible team, Charleston, of employees that comes together like you've never seen on occasions such as this. Ben?
Thank you, sir. Currently, the City of Charleston is at operating condition 2. What that means is that we are in preparation mode for the oncoming storm. As the mayor mentioned, what we're seeing with the current conditions with the storm is that it continues to strengthen in terms of its effects for us. Every time we get an update, it seems to show that we're going to get a little bit more than what the last update showed. So we are preparing right now for hurricane-like conditions, very reminiscent of what we saw with Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Matthew. So especially if you had effects from those storms in the past, please anticipate something similar this time around and make appropriate preparations for you and your loved ones. We anticipate tomorrow morning at about 0800, 8 o'clock in the morning, that we're going to go to operating condition 1. And what that means is we will be in full response mode. That's when all of our emergency services are geared towards the storm. So that's when we take this on in full. And, Mr. Mayor, that's my update.
Thank you, Ben. Next up will be Gianna Shaw-Johnson and Emily Beck with our Housing and Community Development Department to talk about sheltering and our outreach to those most in need. Gianna, Emily.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor, thank you, City Council, and certainly the leadership of Charleston County Council. We want to emphasize to our unsheltered neighbors actually taking advantage of the shelter opportunities that are available in our community during this storm. We would ask those that support them, our service providers and others, to ensure that we communicate as effectively and as often as possible during this time, that our unsheltered and homeless individuals and take advantage of the 2 shelters that will be open in the community. There is a pet-friendly shelter for those who have animals at 3841 Leeds Avenue in the North Charleston community. That's the Sheriff's Admin Facility on Leeds Avenue. In addition to that, Dunston Elementary School, located at 1825 Remount Road in North Charleston, will also provide shelter to those who need it. In addition to that, we have team members out in the field, out in the community, passing out information related to these shelters so that, again, folks and individuals that are unsheltered can take advantage of it. So how do they get to the shelters? I'm going to ask Emily to come up and share that information as well as any other information pertinent for this population of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianna. So free transportation is being provided to each shelter. There are over 50 bus stops that are providing transportation. You just look for the blue hurricane bus stop evacuation signs. That information is available on the County Emergency Management website. And there's also emergency contact phone numbers and whatnot on there as well. So emphasize what Gianna said. If you are unsheltered or in need of assistance, then please seek out those shelters.
Thank you, Gianna and Emily. And I would add to that, you all know that Governor McMaster issued an emergency declaration yesterday for the state. The city of Charleston likewise followed suit and issued an emergency declaration for the city of Charleston today. There is no evacuation order has been given. But if you live in a home that flooded, got water in your home during a recent hurricane, I would highly advise you consider relocating by way of one of the shelters or just staying with someone else, because there will be water tomorrow in this city. Next up, I'd like to call on Deputy Chief Jason Cruson and then Police Chief Luther Reynolds, and Deputy Chief Cheeto Walker is here with him as well. But before they come forward, I want to make another statement to our citizens. We all love and respect our first responders and the work that they do. The best way you can show that love tomorrow is to stay home and stay out of harm's way. They're going to be ready to answer the call if anybody needs help. But again, let's not put them to the test unless we absolutely have to. Stay home and stay safe tomorrow when this storm comes through. Chief Cruzen.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The fire department has increased its staffing to provide additional resources, including high water vehicles. We have those strategically staged throughout the city. We also rely on the efforts of our response partners. We've been coordinating closely with those, not only the police department in Charleston, but our fellow responders in our neighboring agencies. We hope we don't have to use those. So as the mayor said, please stay out of the flooded streets, stay in a safe place. We have those resources available, but again, we do not want to use those. So please stay safe, and if you see flooded water, stay out of them, find an alternate route, turn around, don't drown. Thank you.
I think the mayor and everybody has covered this adequately, but I'll just reinforce the message that's been provided already. Our Emergency Operations Center is set up. All of the partnering agencies are connected. I've received calls from Charlotte-Mecklenburg, from Chief Keel, from SLED, from all of our neighboring jurisdictions to offer their support and mutual aid if we need it. We have a lot of resources in place. We've put our officers on 12-hour shifts. We've canceled, obviously, all the events that were occurring in the city, which keeps people off the roads and allows our officers to focus on keeping the city safe, keeping our residents safe. We're going to do everything possible to make sure that we help people. But I just want to emphasize the message that the mayor and others have provided. Please stay home, stay out of harm's way. We're going to have a lot of road closures. There is going to be significant flooding, and we want to make sure that we keep people out of harm's way so that we can focus on other things, more important things, to life safety and keeping our city and our residents safe. So we're grateful that this weather pattern is not as significant maybe as in Florida, but it is significant, as the mayor has emphasized already. It's turning in our direction, and we want to make sure that everybody stays home and stays out of the flood, stays off the roads, stays away from the city. If you don't need to be here, please don't come here during the storm tomorrow and Saturday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for providing interpretation for those hearing impaired. I'd like to call next on Officer Tilley, who's going to give us a recap in Spanish for our Hispanic citizens. Officer, thank you for being with us.
Buenas tardes, yo soy oficial Tilly con la policía de Charleston. La ciudad de Charleston permanece en up con 2 mientras los funcionarios que se preparan para los impactos de la tormenta tropical Ian. En jueves por la mañana, en previsión de la tormenta tropical Ian, el alcalde de Charleston, John Teckenberg, declaró el estado de emergencia con la ciudad de Charleston y aprobado los siguientes 3 ordenanzas de emergencias. Una ordenanza que autorice al jefe de policía Luther Reynolds y sus designados a limpiar tráfico de carros en ciertas calles, en áreas designadas que sea necesario para proteger la seguridad pública. Y una ordenanza que autorice el John Teckenberg en consulta del jefe de policía Luther Reynolds, el policía Luther Reynolds, para imponer un toque de queda si for necesario para proteger la seguridad pública. El Servicio de Meteorología Nacional emitió una advertencia al huracán, una advertencia de tormenta tropical, una advertencia de marejada ciclónica de 3 a 5 pies en lo condado de Charleston en las 24 horas. Se prevé que la tormenta tropical Ian toque tierra cerca de la frontera entre Carolina del Sur y Georgia y viene con vientos sostenidos de 70 millas por hora. Se esperan grandes inundaciones costeras junto a la marea alta a las 11 de la mañana para el viernes por la noche. Se esperan inundaciones considerables debido a las fuertes lluvias a las 11 de la noche. Se esperan los vientos aumentar en largo del día. Se protegen alrededor de 4 a 8 pulgadas de lluvia. Se esperan inundaciones considerables con las mareas ciclónicas, potencialmente mortales, de 5 a 5 pies, especialmente alrededor de las mareas altas a las 11 de la mañana y las 11:55 de la noche. Se esperan vientos sostenidos de fuerte tropical como 70 a 75 millas por hora temprano. Es probable que los vientos más fuertes sean desde la mañana a las medianoche. Nosotros de la Policía de Charleston estamos aquí para la comunidad. Y si tienen más preguntas, pueden accesar nuestro website en charlestonsc.gov. Gracias.
Gracias. Thank you. All right. So I know the track of the storm has changed a lot over the last week, and early indications were that there would be very little low impact to the low country and Charleston region. That has changed, so maybe we got into a little complacency. I just want everybody to know, once again, take this storm seriously. Spend the rest of the day getting ready for it, doing whatever you need to do to be prepared, and tomorrow, stay home and stay out of harm's way. And thank you all for being here and helping us share this message. If anybody has any questions at this point in time, we'll be glad to take them.
All right, we were just listening into the City of Charleston's emergency management team, first responders, and Mayor Tecklenburg giving us an update on the city's plans for Ian. Now, the biggest thing we learned is that in following suit with the state emergency that was ordered yesterday in Charleston, there was also a declaration of emergency issued today. As a reminder, there is no evacuation order in place right now, but Mayor Tecklenburg did say that people who have experienced flooding previously should consider evacuating. Of course, the continuous message, be prepared, stay safe, stay home. Another big message, especially tonight throughout tomorrow morning, as we expect to see rain. Meteorologist Charleston Clark's going to have your full forecast coming up. But again, some big takeaways. We are going into full response mode at 8 a.m. tomorrow, according to the emergency management director. First responders will be out. They will be shutting down roads as they are flooded. So reminder, turn around, don't drown, do not drive around those barricades. They are up for a reason. We mentioned it earlier. If you still need to fill sandbags, there are multiple locations in Charleston and North Charleston for people that want to pick up sandbags for their homes to try to help prevent some of that flooding. And there are 2 shelters open as well for people who may need to evacuate. The first is a pet-friendly shelter on Leeds Avenue. The second is Dunston Elementary School. Both of those shelters are available for folks that want to evacuate, and there is free transportation to both of those shelters as well. If you live in a low-lying area, you want to evacuate, if you're maybe worried about your car, the city's parking garages will be available for people who want to move their cars to higher elevation, or if you live in downtown and want to move your car to higher elevation, parking garages will be available for you as well. Again, the big message from the mayor and the entire team for the city of Charleston: stay home and stay safe, everyone. And we're going to continue to monitor any changes they put out throughout the day when it comes to road closures, anything along those lines. So be sure to stay tuned in to ABC News 4 here on our app and on our website as we follow developments throughout the Low Country.
Now on ABC News 4 at 11, we're working for you with a Storm Tracker update.
And I believe the mayor is still answering some questions at that press conference. So if you want to tune in, you can head over to abcnews4.com where we are live streaming that, or to our Facebook page, also ABC News 4. Otherwise, a little bit closer to home, not seeing any of that rain from Ian move in quite yet. It's been staying off the coast, but that won't be for much longer. Here within the next couple of hours, we'll start to see some of those steadier rain showers work on shore. And then, as the mayor said, yes, we are going to be dealing with some flooding. Right now, the main impacts look to be that coastal and tidal flooding, some inland flooding. We are also talking about, of course, those gusty winds, tropical storm force winds. And right now, we're still keeping the isolated tornado risk on the table, but that could change, and I'll tell you why that is. So you look at these spaghetti plots, right? And I want you to notice one thing. A lot of these models starting to shift a little bit further to the north, around Charleston and further north. So if this sticks, if we start to see this storm shift to the north, those impacts will be a little bit less. That's when we can start to take the tornadoes out of the forecast some, and that's when we can also start to take down that storm surge risk as well. But again, we're still trying to keep an eye on things, but right now some of these models are trekking a little bit more north. But going through the next 48 hours, we're going to be dealing with some of that heavy rain. This is just our in-house model, and this has it trekking northward. And you can see still dealing with some heavy rain by tomorrow afternoon, and then by tomorrow evening it'll continue to move inland, and this one is starting to show that the rain will wrap up later tomorrow night. But one difference between that model and the Euro is this Euro model has it staying a little bit to the south. So if it stays to the south, that's when we'll start to keep that isolated tornado risk in the forecast. So you can see it staying a little bit further to the south. But regardless, we're still going to be dealing with some heavy rain. We're still going to be dealing with some of those tidal and coastal flooding. We're going to be dealing with those gusty winds. So those are for sure. We will be dealing with all of that. So going through the rest of the day, we're going to start to see that rain pick up by later on this evening. Along with those gusty winds, we can expect downpours, tropical storm force gusts as we go through tomorrow, and some more rain by tomorrow night. Again, if you are planning on doing any traveling, which I hope you don't, this is the one time that I don't want you to be out on those roads just because of that flooding. But looking at that high tide flood risk, right around those high tides, we could be dealing with moderate to major flood risks. And then you'll start to notice that by Saturday, we'll start to calm that down just a little bit. But look at these wind gusts going through tomorrow morning. Those gusts right around 55 miles an hour, possibly up to 60 miles an hour. So something we'll keep a very close eye on, but we'll talk more about some of those other impacts coming up here in just a little bit. I'll go ahead and send it back to you, Katie.
All right, thank you, Charleston. Stay with us. We will continue our special live coverage as we continue to track Ian. Don't forget, you can always see updates on Ian and several other stories on our website and social media pages. Be sure to follow ABC News 4 for the latest updates and alerts. We'll see you right back after this break.
taking